There are two kings in the ever-growing roguelike genre. The isometric tale of gods and lost Hades, and the Metroidvania-style adventure starring a headless hero, Dead Cells. Both games have risen above their humble origins to become true hits in an industry usually dominated by massive open worlds and billion-dollar budgets. So it is no surprise to see games come along that try to imitate what these games did before them. Usually, that ends in a game being written off as a copy, but in some cases, the game brings enough of its own flavour to stand on its own 2 feet. Trinity Fusion is one such game, and even though it is in early access, there is quite a bit of potential here for a bright future. Set in some sort of multiverse built by some sort of god race, Trinity Fusion tells the story of one of these gods and her 3 human doppelgangers, one in each of the realms under their guidance. The gods are using this connection to help prevent the collapse of the realms, as the other inhabitants have risen up against the gods and thrown everything into chaos. It is all a little bit colonial rule for my taste, but there is promise that the story will take some nice twists and turns, moving it away from the somewhat problematic setup and into more interesting territory. What this premise does allow is for 3 very different locations and sets of enemies, along with 3 different protagonists. Variety is the spice of life, and it is fair to say that Trinity Fusion is plenty spicy. The 3 different universes available are exciting to explore. One is an elemental world filled with ruined buildings and caves. One is an industrial themed location with lots of lava and machinery. And the final is a futuristic city with more neon and colourful palette. Players can choose which area to start their journey in once they've unlocked them by beating the boss in the previous location, and the character they play in each area has a different skill set, so things are never quite the same. During the levels, there's also the option to merge the different doppelgangers and combine their skills, should you find the appropriate location in the randomly generated maps. So there's even more ways to mix things up mid-run. Trinity Fusion has all the trappings of a good roguelike. Gradual progression after each run, upgrades, new weapons, in-run improvements scattered throughout the levels, and a skill-based combat and platforming system that encourages the player to get better as their character gets stronger. There seems to be a nice variety in the pickups and the boosts, so things don't get stale, and all the levels are fun to explore. They borrow the teleport system from Dead Cells, which is a blessing for those that like to explore every corner of the map before moving on. And the bosses for each area are significantly challenging, but don't feel unfair or cheap in any way. For a game that is still in early access, the building blocks feel wonderfully balanced. creating a great foundation for the developers to continue to build on. Satisfying feel to every encounter. Identifying immediate threats in a group of enemies is essential. Learning the different combat is broken down into 3 parts. Melee attacks with a main weapon, specialised attacks that use a meter that is charged with standard attacks, and extra abilities that are picked up during each run, which work on a cooldown timer. This all mixes and merges together to create a combat system that is versatile and fun to engage with. There are a host of different weapons and abilities, all of which feel unique, so players are sure to find favourites, but all work well and none feel out of place. As for worries, I have a few, but nothing that makes me think this is going to be some sort of failure between now and the full release. At the moment, there seems to be a limited number of boss encounters, and they're always the same, so things could get old quickly. The aforementioned story also concerns me, not only for its conqueror overtones, but because it seems a little unfocused and scattered. It's hard to get a read exactly what is going on, and the small drips of exposition aren't enough to have me invested in the tale it is telling. Finally, I worry it doesn't do enough different from Dead Cells to stand out. There is no doubt that this is going to be a good roguelike, but if it doesn't create its own path, it will forever be in the shadow of that groundbreaking title. All 3 of these issues could well be sorted before version 1.0 hits our computers, so there really is nothing to stress about yet. But as things stand, I'm happy to report that Trinity Fusion is shaping up quite nicely. It looks great, has a ton of variety, and the combat is fun and engaging. It runs well on a range of systems, works perfectly on the Steam Deck to boot, and in all, I'm looking forward to how this one goes through its early access period, how things change, what gets added, and what needs tweaking. There's a great foundation here, and if the devs can get it right, they really could be onto another roguelike hit. Trinity Fusion is available in early access on Steam right now, and is coming to Xbox and PlayStation at a later date. Thank you for joining us for another Player 2 preview on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe the video down below, it helps us out greatly. Head over to player2.net.au to see the written version of this review and catch all of our news, previews, reviews, opinion pieces and podcasts in the one easy location. We also have a Patreon if you feel so inclined. But thank you for joining us and we'll catch you next time on Player 2.